I actually don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Hold on. Oh my gosh, they are all different. Oh my god. Oh, it's pronounced Charissa, like Teresa. Thank you, Charissa, for clarifying that. I mean, as long as that's her legitimate website. Hi everyone, welcome to or back to my channel. I'm Jay, for those of you who are new here. In my last video, I shared my favorite reads of 2024, the absolute standouts that made my reading year unforgettable. But today we're talking about the books that just didn't work for me this year. Whether they missed the mark, fell flat, or just weren't my vibe. These are my personal worst books of 2024. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these and what you thought. Maybe you have a completely different take. And if you haven't read these books and know from my past videos that we share similar taste, well, maybe I can save you some time. First up is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. This is about a powerful business mogul and a small town feisty librarian who clash over their different perceptions of a shared past. I went into this one with such high hopes because I did like the first two books in the Knock 'Em Out series. They were fun, swoony, and emotional. Pretty much all I could ask for in a romance. But sadly, this third installment just didn't do it for me. The pacing felt completely off. Like it dragged in many places and felt rushed in others. And the characters who I adored in previous books almost felt like caricatures of who they used to be. And as for the romance, it just didn't click for me. I wasn't rooting for the couple like I thought I would. And I know this book worked for a lot of people, but unfortunately, it left me disappointed. Next is The Witch Collector by Charissa Weeks. This one had such an intriguing premise, a dark, magical romance set in a world of witches and danger. It sounded like it was going to be right up my alley, but the execution just didn't live up to the promise. I read this back in January, and honestly, I've already forgotten most of it. The characters and the story didn't pull me in enough to make me care about what was happening. I kept waiting for the moment when I'd feel fully invested, but it never came. It was such a letdown for a book with so much potential. If you've read this and loved it, I'd genuinely love to hear what worked for you because I'm wondering if I just missed something. And third on my list is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This book has such a cult following and I really wanted to understand the hype. I am not against a little drama. In fact, I love rich people drama in both literature and TV. Messy relationships and flawed characters make for great stories. But this one, the drama was so excessive, it became exhausting. The relationships were beyond toxic. Beyond. And instead of rooting for the characters, I found myself just wishing for it to be over. I can appreciate a protagonist who makes questionable choices, but Magnolia's decisions were so frustrating, it was hard to stay engaged. I will say, if you love an absolute train wreck of a relationship, then this one might be for you. But for me, it was a definite miss. And next, I know Elsie Silver is a beloved romance author, and I really enjoyed her Chestnut Springs series. Heartless is one of my favorites, but Wild Love, it just didn't do it for me. I read this back in April, and once again, I can hardly remember a thing about it. I even went back to read the synopsis to jog my memory, and it just barely clicked. And that's not a great sign. I know that I gave it 1.5 stars, so clearly something didn't sit right. But here's the thing, I'm not giving up on Elsie Silver. She's proven she can write amazing romance, so I'm chalking this one up as a fluke and moving on. And last on my list is One Star Romance by Laura Hankin. This one is about a struggling writer who is forced to work together with her harshest critic at her best friend's wedding. This book left me completely baffled. The romantic interest does something so petty and unforgivable at the beginning of the story to set up their enemies to lovers dynamic that I just couldn't move past it. Even when it was eventually explained, I just couldn't move past the betrayal. It was such a huge turnoff for me, and no amount of charm or explanation could redeem him in my eyes. Maybe that's just a me problem. Maybe I'm too bitter and unforgiving. I keep giving enemies to lovers a chance, and it almost always lets me down. But seriously, I know some readers really loved this one. And if you're one of them, please let me know in the comments. And that wraps up my worst of 2024. I did keep it short because honestly, I have so much admiration for anyone who puts their heart into writing a book and for the readers who connect with their stories. Just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for someone else. And again, if you've read any of these, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, especially if you feel differently. And if you're looking for something a little more positive, make sure to check out my last video about my favorite books of 2024. There you'll find some recommendations that I absolutely loved. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.